7:21 p.m. BST PARIS. There is no shortage of storylines for Sunday's men's final at the 2019 French Open between number 2 seed Rafael Nadal and No. 4 Dominic Thiem. Nadal is looking to extend his mind-boggling record of Roland Garros titles to 12, while Thiem is aiming for his first Grand Slam title. This year's final is also a rematch of last year's championship, which Nadal won in straight sets. And then there's the added wrinkle of Thiem coming off a 5-set victory over Novak Djokovic that extended over 2 days and didn't finish until Saturday due to inclement weather. How both players react to those factors will go a long way to determining this year's champion. Our experts answer the biggest questions and break down what to expect in Sunday's final. Dominic Thiem, left, and Rafael Nadal will square off in the French Open men's final for the second consecutive year. App photo, Alessandra Tarantino. Due to the quick turnaround for Thiem, how much will rest play a part in Sunday's final? ESPN.com tennis writer Peter Bodo. Ordinarily, it might not be too huge a factor because of the degree of diligence Thiem brings to his fitness training. But this is Nadal he's facing. The number 2 seed is well rested, and his stock in trade for a dozen years has been grinding and breaking down opponents patiently, implacably and inexorably. Nobody sustains a comparably high level of intensity from the first point to the last, taking breathing room away from his opponent. That will play on Thiem's mind from the get-go, and only loom larger in a close match. ESPN.com contributor Simon Chambers. It has to be a factor, and Nadal must have allowed himself a smile as Thiem and Djokovic win 5 sets. That's a big advantage to Nadal, who hardly needs an edge in Roland Garros finals. The one good thing is that it might take the pressure off Thiem, who can swing freely. ESPN senior writer Bonnie D. Ford. There was a lot of social media chatter about Nadal sitting around watching the Djokovic-Thiem semi-final in sweats, licking his chops. I personally think he prepares from the Roland Garros final with the same level of professionalism no matter who he's playing or how long he's had off. Thiem is 8 years younger, and it's not as if he played 5 hours in broiling heat the day before. Thiem's drawn-out, interrupted semi-final match required more episodic energy and an imperviousness to annoyance. I think the final will be a quality match if the weather cooperates. Thiem has 4 wins over Nadal on clay, but none of them has come in a best-of-5 match. Clive Mason. Getty Images. Fart is the most concerning factor for each player going into the match. Bodo. Simple answer for Thiem: stamina. Thiem is one of just 4 men with 3 or more wins over Nadal on clay. Thiem is 4-7 against Nadal on the surface, but none of those 4 wins has been in a best-of-5 match. It doesn't help that Thiem was forced to play more than 2 hours of demanding tennis Saturday due to the suspension of his Friday semi-final against Djokovic. Thiem's physical reserves are bound to be lower than when he lost to Nadal in last year's final. Point 2 related. Nadal, meanwhile, has to worry about 2 things, starting with his physical fitness. In the past 9 months alone, he issued a walkover to Roger Federer before the semi-final meeting at Indian Wells and retired during his US Open semi-final against Juan Martín del Potro. You never really know his condition. The other source of worry: Thiem is one of the few players who can hit through Nadal on any surface. At 25, Thiem is 8 years younger. His body is more durable. His emotional reserves might be sufficient to trump his fatigue after that supercharged win over Djokovic. Chambers. For Nadal, it's the power, speed and belief of Thiem's game. The Austrian has been here before, and although it was Nadal who beat him, the nerves should not be so severe. For Thiem, it's Nadal, the history, the aura, the man himself. and Nadal's game, which seems to be close to its best. Ford, Thiem nailed it when he said self-belief, corny but true. Assuming the weird weather continues, Nadal will have to adjust to variable conditions with the same skill he did against Federer and be just as focused on the big points. Thiem believes he can win it all. What does he have to do to actually get there? Bodo, everyone, including Nadal, is susceptible to pressure. The defending champion will be facing more pressure from the start, given that he's the king of clay and, for a change, facing a finalist who has never won a major. One way to make Nadal feel that pressure acutely is by keeping him from building an early lead. To do that, Thiem must seize every opportunity that presents itself. Thiem blasted his way to 15 breakpoint opportunities in his semi-final win but converted just 6. He has to be a little more effective on crucial points, stick a high percentage of first serves into play, and avoid engaging in long rallies from well behind the baseline. Thiem has to go for his shots, stick to his game plan and never deviate. He has to mix up his serve, maybe with some serve and volley if Nadal stands deep on returns. And Thiem must try to get the crowd on his side, because any little thing might help. Ford, disrupt Nadal's game with varying pace, be aggressive and avoid getting into baseline punching matches. Nadal had a less successful clay season than past years, but he has looked back on his game the past 2 weeks at Roland Garros. Clive Mason, Getty Image show is each player different from a year ago. Bodo, Nadal is a year older at a time when every year counts, at least for players not named Federer. Nadal had a great 2018 until he retired from the US Open. He did not return until January at the Australian Open, where Djokovic exposed the rust in the final with a comprehensive victory. Nadal had a less successful clay season than in past years, but given the way he has played at Roland Garros these 2 weeks, you can throw that right out the window. Since Nadal overpowered Thiem in straight sets in last year's final, the Austrian baseliner has won his first Masters event at Indian Wells, and solidified his status as perhaps the second-best clay court player, behind Nadal. Thiem has added a little more variety to his game, and he has clearly benefited from a coaching change after a slow start this year. He was just 3-4 in February when he hired Chilean Olympic gold medalist Nicolas Mazzu. Since then, Thiem has accumulated a 19-4 record. His confidence must be sky-high, even if his reserves are low. Nadal is probably in the same kind of situation he was 12 months ago. Winning in Rome last month gave him the confidence he needed, and he seems to have improved through the fortnight in Paris. The difference for Thiem is that this year, he really believes he can win a Grand Slam. He is a man who continues to improve every year, and if he has a chance, he might be ready to take it. Ford, small but possibly significant factors. Thiem has been to this dance before now. He beat Nadal in Barcelona in April. Nadal looked more vulnerable on clay than he has in his non-injured recent past. Nadal defeated Thiem in straight sets in last year's final. Will this year's result be different? App photo, Alessandra Tarantino. What is your prediction for the final? Bodo, it's difficult enough to beat Nadal when you're well rested, but the unfortunate circumstances created by the rain on Friday and Saturday suggest that Thiem is anything but. It would take a monumental letdown by Nadal, or an otherworldly effort by Thiem, to block a victory by Nadal. He'll take it in 4 sets. I can't see anything other than a Nadal win. He's peaking at the right time, and with the extra rest, everything is in his favor. Ford, Nadal in 4 sets. Let's block ads. Why?